This episode in the news, well, Johnny and I are going to bring you some news articles that you might have seen or you might not have seen, but we're going to give our commentary anyway. We hope you enjoy. Welcome to the Handyman Pros Radio Show, home improvement and maintenance tips from the pros. Thanks for listening to another edition of the Handyman Pros Radio Show, where our goal is to help save you time, money, and aggravation on your home maintenance and repair. This edition's entitled In the News. And to help me explain, I am here with my ever cheerful co-host and old buddy, Johnny. Johnny.
Yep. We're here, baby.
Johnny, you know what our problem is? We read the news too much.
Yeah, I agree with that.
We always find the interesting
I think
story.
I'd be a happier guy if I didn't read the news so much.
See, one of these news stories I had not even heard about yet, so yeah. I'm like shocked. Now the other one I had,
yeah,
right? the one I did. So let's talk about the one that I've heard about.
Yeah.
Did you hear about the person that found 1 million copper pennies in their home?
Yeah, I mean, for all you renovators out there, I think they were. I think this happened to be they were cleaning out a house. They were giving a house or something through the family. I'm not going to read the something like that. And there was so much crap inside that house, as usually it does occur that way, right? I mean, there's so much stuff people pack in. I guess they were down on their hands and knees and stuff, pulling stuff out of the basement and stuff, and they ran across
They ran across a few
bags and bags of copper pennies.
Of pennies
before the 40s, right? Is that?
Yeah, and they estimate these pennies to all be. They weighed them, which is, folks, if you don't know, I was in the vending business for years, and one of the most accurate ways to count money is to weigh it. And so they know, we know what a copper penny weighs, and the modern scales are very, very accurate. And they estimate there's 1 million pennies there, or about $10,000 in pennies. So that's a lot of pennies, by the way. Let's see.
Yeah,
I know a $500 in quarters weighs 52 pounds. $1,000 in quarters weighs 52 pounds. So 1 million pennies probably weighs, I'd have to say, probably many, many hundreds of pounds.
Oh man, I'll bet. And one of the points in the articles, it's not easy to get rid of them.
No, getting rid of coin was a huge problem. Yeah. It was a huge problem for me when I was in the business. Banks do not want your coin.
Absolutely. And I remember when I was a kid, I could just go to the bank and, just dump all my change, I'd have a box of pennies and nickels and whatever, and they would all count it out, right? They had the machine back then.
Right.
Now, you have to go to like a grocery store or whatever, and they take a percentage of that, as the machine. Okay, I understand that. But back then it was free to do it. Now, nobody wants these things anymore.
Yeah, and they really don't want pennies. They really, really don't want pennies, because pennies are quite problematic. But yeah, we used to have to, I'm not telling stories. We counted all our monies. We put them in what's called a Federal Reserve bag, which is a sealed bag. And they would literally, we would verify our accounts, and we would put our information on the bags, and then they would take and weigh them usually at one of the transport companies like Wells Fargo or whoever the armored car service was. They would weigh them and verify the dollar amounts, and that's how we would deposit our coin that way. Not easy to get rid of coin.
Yeah.
And folks, it's heavy. Like, I had to take a hand truck to the bank.
Yeah.
And I'm not exaggerating.
Yeah.
I had to take a hand truck. It was so heavy that, they even said in the article that we read that the springs on the vehicle they were carrying the money and got
it is interesting because it says modern pennies are made of copper plated zinc, and these are all pure copper. So they're all from before 1943. But the one point in here is interesting is that, and we talked about it earlier, it was, you got to go through all these pennies, because some of these things could be really valuable, rare pennies. And some of these,
there could be some collectibles in there,
big time collectibles in there. So I guess the story being pertinent to the handyman side of things, right, is when you're renovating, You never know what you're going to find. We've featured a couple different stories on here of what people have found. All that.
Oh yeah.
You know.
We have, and I mean, I know I've not found anything truly valuable, but there are plenty of stories where people have found money.
Oh yeah.
They found one I found fascinating was a guy's renovating an attic from an old house, and he finds a sword, and he thinks it's a sword from the Civil War. So he takes it down to have it appraised. It's not a sword from the Civil War. It's a sword from the Revolutionary War and was worth, I don't know, 5 times what a Civil War sword was worth it because it was extremely rare and extremely valuable. And anyway, kind of interesting,
Yeah.
what you find.
Yeah. I
right?
mean, all we find between you and me is just a bunch of skeletons.
Yeah, usually of rats.
Rats, skeletons in your closet, Larry. So
yeah, literally, yeah,
don't
literally,
open that
we find
closet.
skeletons.
Larry's out of the
Mummified.
closet.
Folks, look. We did a Halloween show, and I literally found a mummified
Yeah,
rat, and
I
it
know.
was
I know. I still
got to
got
be
that
one of the
picture
scariest
somewhere.
things.
It's
Yeah,
that's
it
frightening.
is out there. Anyway,
but it is
but
interesting because you bring up a good point. Check around. You get a new house or you're a used house, whatever. You never know what's in there.
when you're renovating an older house, particularly anything that's, gosh, even into the 50s, you don't know what you're going to find. You really don't know what you're going to find. And
Yeah.
anything that goes older than that, you really never know what you're going to find because people had a different concept of security back then, and sticking money in the walls and things was not considered unnormal.
Yeah, it's not uncommon.
It's not uncommon. Yeah, it wasn't uncommon. And I do know several people that have found about 1 million razor blades in old bathroom walls because back in the day there's a little slot that they used to put in bathrooms, and you take your safety blades and put them in there, and you never knew where they went because they went in between the walls.
Yeah, the next guy renovating.
But when you do the reno 100 years later, you find all these razor
you're getting
blades.
cut with rusty blades and stuff. So great. So there's that.
Wonderful.
Like
so then so we've got that going for me.
Yeah.
Like
asbestos isn't bad enough. Now you got that thing going on.
Well,
yeah.
Asbestos is overrated, Johnny.
You know
that.
So, Larry, the other thing that played in here, I couldn't believe it the other day, but it was a crashed UFO.
Hey, our tagline, this is not the end of the show, folks. By the way, this is not the end of the show. This is a real story.
Maybe many of you wish it was the end of the show, but it's not. But
it's not the end of the show. But there was supposedly, according to this article, and there's body cam footage from the Las Vegas PD. This happened in Las Vegas. There was a report of an 8 to 10 foot alien creature that crash landed. There was a sonic boom. I think it's on a Ring camera also, and something like 21 people across the Southwest saw this. This wasn't an isolated incident. Let's just say this isn't one person who's effectively lost it. This is there's some camera footage.
Yeah, just to be clear, the camera footage is something that's fallen out of the sky. They didn't get the aliens.
No, there's no pictures of aliens.
But they did. The guy, his family. This happened in Las Vegas, so I'm sure a lot of you folks out there have heard about this because it was all over the news. But it was interesting that just watching these folks, the way they described it and everything, you can tell that they were truly terrified. There was no BS going on here, and they said, hey, they heard this big crash, and they called the cops. They went out back and they said right by their forklift, or they were working on their car or something at night, and there's 2 8-foot creatures in his backyard. He said they were green, big slanty eyes, and a big mouth, and they were breathing and skinny. And he said they just froze up. He called the cops, and the cops came, and the guy said, "Hey, man, I got to tell you that we just got something on our body cam that fell out of the sky 5 minutes before you called us." I'm like, whoa. Yeah. And, I'm like, okay. And then you see the picture that there was something perfectly round in their backyard that made a perfectly round thing, impression in the soil. I'm like, well, interesting, So this thing is running around. He said, I'm listening to 1,000 footsteps, and I think he's got a YouTube video out there if you want to check it out, describing the whole thing, and he put this thing together. I'm like, wow, you can tell he was shaken up. So who knows? Larry.
We talk about it. It's our tagline on the end of the show. I do have an alien that rides around with me in the car, although she's made of plastic.
You think?
She does light up.
Yeah, you think. It could be alive when you're not looking at it. It could be alive.
Sometimes I wonder. Definitely weirds my dog out. I can tell you that much. But anyway, yeah, it's just we just bring it because it's kind of because it's our tagline. But it is kind of interesting. This one is between this and the F-18 gun camera video. Whatever. I don't. Who knows?
Yeah, who knows?
Statistically, you look at just the numbers. There has to be intelligent life somewhere.
Yeah. You'd think. Then right before the show, I just looked on the news here, and 1 hour ago was posted. A guy takes a picture at the at an air show, and there's a UFO that flies right through the Red Arrow, the Royal Air Force Red Arrows that are performing in London.
Hey.
I'm like, yeah, or Devon, England. It's like, okay, well, where's all this coming from all of a sudden, right? Is it a distraction? Is it, who knows what's going on here?
And who cares?
Yeah.
But I know, Johnny, when they come to my house and visit me, all they want to do, they're always looking for something. They usually need their UFOs repaired, right? We're always forever taking the damn things apart, right?
Yeah, I mean, if I saw him, what would you say? Would you say to the thing? He's standing there by the forklift.
Hey, get away from my forklift.
Don't be taking my forklift apart, or what? What are they doing over there? I don't know.
It's a thing.
I don't know. Anyway. Just looking at this whole thing, and the guy was very, very believable. It wasn't, somebody stumbling out of a casino, and next thing he says, he's there's aliens and Elvis together and something.
I do want to know why this stuff tends to happen in the desert.
Well, have you been in the city lately? There's plenty of evidence of aliens.
This is true. This is true. Really, if you think about it, if you really wanted to come in, the perfect place for an alien to land in the United States anyway, the most perfect place in the whole wide world where you would never be noticed. There's two places. Well, 3 places. The first one is Vegas, because basically what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas, right? So you could go there. The second place you could go is to New York City, because why? Because who cares?
Right.
Nobody pays attention.
Right. Either that or maybe San Fran.
Well, then you could just pretend.
It's crazy, but there's plenty of places. And then the guy comes out the other day and says, "There's aliens are amongst us," and I believe it. Just look around.
Whatever.
If you've been observing all your life, you gotta kind of go along with some of that.
Yeah, there's a certain amount of prevalence. Anyway, with that, if you enjoy this Handyman Pros radio show craziness, I know that had a little to do with saving you time, money, and aggravation, but we found it of interest. We did find it of interest. Finding a million pennies, I thought, was pretty cool. I've always wanted to find a big windfall in a house. It has yet to happen, but who knows? One of these days, maybe. Who knows? A million pennies. Still, it's $10,000. It's $10,000 at face value. That's a lot. That's a good find.
Right. It probably cost you about $50,000 to try to get rid of them.
Won't cost them that much. I think they were actually asking $25,000 for the whole lot. So if you wanted to speculate on the fact that you would find a truly rare one, I actually wonder. I didn't do the lookup, but I'll bet there's $25,000 in copper in that.
Well, and that's what I was going. That's where I was going to go with
more
it.
Than a penny.
That's where I was going to go with it. I mean, at the least, it's the copper and everything, but
the scrap copper. Yep.
Yeah.
So. Anyway, with that, if you like this show, please send us an email. If you don't like this show, please send us an email. That's questions@handymanprosradioshow.com. And by the way, we will answer those questions. We've actually got an upcoming show sometime, or it might have already been published. It all depends on when Johnny publishes it, but we're going to do some responses to emails from this past month. Right. So, yes, from Mr. Producer. Mr. Producer. Yep. Mr. Producer. All right. With that, we will see you next week on the Handyman Pros Radio Show.